Alvarez versus Danny Jacobs. That's Saturday, May 4th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it'll stream live on DAZN, and this is for the unification of the middleweight championship title.
This is the official kickoff for Canelo Jacobs. The World Middleweight Championship mega fight scheduled for Cinco De Mayo weekend in Las Vegas. On Saturday, May 4th, it's all happening at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Champion versus champion for the WBC, WBA Lineal, Ring Magazine, and IBF Middleweight World titles. Streamed exclusively on DAZN. It's all brought to you by Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions in association with Matchroom Boxing.
We're also fortunate to have with us today the former undisputed middleweight champion of the world with a record 20 title defenses, a future Hall of Famer, a partner in Golden Boy, the executioner, the alien, Bernard Hopkins.
First, I'd like to say, to Jacob and Canelo, thanks from the fans in Philly who wanted me to let you know that they appreciate both guys willing to risk everything that they work for the undisputed middleweight champion, the prestigious division that I've had a great 13 or 14 years of success. Now that I'm retired, I'm still in it in a way of history making from these two and also as the business side of it. So thank you and enjoy the fight.
Welcome, the managing director of Matchroom Sport and the promoter of Daniel Jacobs, Mr. Eddie Hearn.
New York, how you doing? Brooklyn, how you doing? Mexico, how you doing? Okay. Guys, just want to echo what Joe said earlier. This is an amazing moment for DAZN. And, fight fans over here, for a long time, you've been paying a lot of money for the super fights, and that's really about to change. The fight itself, we have to give a huge amount of credit and respect to Canelo and to Oscar and the team. They know about this fight. They know how tough this fight is. And I can just see a little bit of worry, I don't know, maybe, no. Bernard, no. Robert, these guys know more about boxing than I'll ever know. And they know about this fight. They know about this fight. But isn't it great that we have a super fight, Cinco De Mayo and T-Mobile? Isn't it great that we have a moment in the sport when two great champions can come together? Because I have to be honest, there were plenty of TV executives out there that told us this fight won't happen. There is no way Canelo and Golden Boy will fight Danny Jacobs. I think Danny even feared that himself. But for a long, long time, when we signed Daniel Jacobs, he has told me many, many times 3 special words. Bring me Canelo. And on May the 4th, he gets his chance. He gets his chance, not just to have a great story. We know the Daniel Jacobs story. It's incredible. One day it will go down as the greatest comeback story in the history of the sport. The man was told he may not live, he may not walk again, but he will certainly never fight again. He came back to win the World Middleweight Championship, and now he stands before you to be the unified middleweight world championship, the best fighter in the world, the Ring Magazine champion, all these things. But when I saw him fight Gennady Golovkin and that final bell went, I thought, wow, Jacobs has done it. Jacobs has done it. Jacobs has come back from cancer. He's come back from never fighting again, and he's done it. And I thought, I just believe the gods, although it was a close fight, the gods are going to give him this win. But they didn't, because they waited for this moment. They waited for this moment when he can go out on this platform against the very best in the world and create a legacy that will never, ever be forgotten in the sport of boxing. And I've never been so confident in a 50-50 fight, because that's what this is. Because I believe that this young man walks with faith. And I believe that on May the 4th, he will become the unified middleweight champion of the world. Fate is a wonderful thing. But when you combine it with talent, it goes a long way. And for my Mexican friends, I was in Tijuana at the weekend. What a place. What a place. La Chona, my favorite song. True story. And Cinco de Mayo is such a wonderful weekend of celebration for you great people. Not this year. Not this year. I wish both of you the best of luck. My heart, my head is with this young man, the best middleweight on the planet. And on May the 4th, you will get a night and a show you will never forget. Thank you and God bless. Thank you.
And now to the man who's responsible for getting Daniel Jacobs in shape and getting the game plan ready to pull off what many consider would be an upset in the middleweight division, Andre Rozier.
Good afternoon, everyone. First off, I want to tell you, these two young men are two of my favorite fighters, but my son is my favorite fighter. And we're going to work very hard so that when May 4th arrives, come the toll of the last shot in this fight, the hand that'll be raised will be Daniel, the Miracle Man Jacobs. He's an astute student, and he's hungry to show the world just how special he is. You all know the story, but we're not talking about the story now. He has done what no other man has done, and as our moniker goes, he fears no man. He has no need to. He's been anointed as elite, and come May 4th, Daniel, the Miracle Man Jacobs, will be the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. Thank you very much.
Now to the man who helped craft the game plan that allowed Canelo Alvarez to beat Triple G last year in one of the best fights of 2018, and also helped Canelo beat Rocky Fielding to complete a 168-pound world title. His name is Eddie Reynoso, the Trainer of the Year 2018 from the WBC.
Después de Canelo, el mejor peso medio está aquí, que es Daniel Jacobs.
And after Canelo, the next best middleweight is Daniel Jacobs.
Entonces sabemos que va a ser una pelea muy fuerte. Jacobs es un tremendo boxeador con muchísimas cualidades, nosotros lo sabemos.
And we know that Jacobs, what he brings and how talented and all the qualities he has and how tough a fight, we know that.
Pero este año queremos nosotros barrer la división y Daniel Jacobs pues va a tener que perder para
But this
lograr el objetivo.
year, we want to sweep the middleweight division. And we're going to do what we always do, prepare strong, prepare properly, no shortcuts, win this fight, and prepare ourselves for the next champion. Because like I said, 2019, we're sweeping the division.
I think we've heard from everybody up here, so we appreciate it, guys. Have a good night, and thanks for Anyway, there's two more men we need to hear from, right? How about we start with the IBF Middleweight Champion of the World. He has an 81% knockout ratio. His team believes it. His fans believe it. His doctors believe it, that he'll be the unified middleweight champion of the world May 4th at the T-Mobile Arena. Please welcome Daniel Jacobs, the Miracle Man.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys. New York. Viva Brooklyn and Viva Mexico, eh? Hey, I just want to say much respect to everyone for being here. Ultimately, much respect to Golden Boy and Canelo for accepting this fight. You're a true champion, and stepping in with another champion says a lot. So I take my hat off to you, but I'm looking for a tremendous fight for the fans. This fight is for the fans. Obviously, our legacy is on the line. He's already well established, so for me, it's about capturing the titles, all the titles, to claim my legacy in my own right. I'm from Brooklyn, Brownsville, New York. I never, ever had it easy. I've always had the long road. I always had to jump over hurdles after hurdle after hurdle. But when I step in that ring, May 4th, that would be the last hurdle that I would have to step in, because I would declare myself the middleweight champ, the best fighter in the world of my division. I have my team to thank: Andre Rozier, Keith Connolly, my trainer up in heaven, Victor Roundtree, who couldn't be here today, all my staff, Scooty Scoot, Chris, Coach. I love all you guys. We have worked so hard for this moment. And I'm going to tell you one thing. It's not going to be a moment that I take for granted. I'm going to make sure that I put my best foot forward. So all of you fans, whether you're going for Canelo or whether you're going for me, that all you fans can enjoy this fight because we both stepped up to the plate. We both know what this means. So I'm looking forward to it all. This is very exciting for me. But at the end of the day, I know what matters most, and that's making sure you guys are pleased. So big ups to the fan. Make sure you guys watch this fight. $10 for DAZN to describe. I'll see you guys May 4th. Thank you.
And finally, arguably boxing's biggest superstar today, a man that needs no introduction, but he's putting it all on the line for you, the fans, fighting truly the best middleweight out there today, the one, the only, Canelo Alvarez.
Bueno, primero que nada, quiero agradecerle a todos ustedes, a cada uno de ustedes por estar aquí y por siempre apoyarme en mi carrera. Estoy muy agradecido, muy orgulloso de representar a mi país.
First and foremost, I want to thank you. Thank you all for being here, for always supporting me. And I'm very honored. I'm always honored to represent my country.
Gracias a DAZN, Golden Boy, Canelo Team. Gracias por siempre estar a mi lado y apoyándome.
I want to thank DAZN, I want to thank Golden Boy, and I want to thank my team, Canelo Team, for always supporting me.
Siempre me gustan los retos. Hoy tenemos un gran reto enfrente que es Daniel Jacobs. Sabemos la capacidad que tiene, sabemos las habilidades que tiene. Es un gran peleador, un peleador que sabe manejarse muy bien arriba del cuadrilátero.
I've always liked challenges, and this is not an exception. We know what Daniel Jacobs brings, his ability, his qualities, his talent. He knows how to move well in the ring.
Y nos vamos a preparar como siempre. Haremos una gran preparación con la responsabilidad que siempre asumimos para salir con la mano en alto, obviamente, el 4 de mayo y brindarle más que nada a la gente una gran pelea y que disfruten de grandes peleas.
And we'll do what we always do, prepare ourselves to the fullest to give the fans a great fight. This is not going to be an exception. It's going to be a great fight, and we're going to come out with our hand raised.
Muchas gracias a todos y nos vemos el 4 de mayo.
Thank you to everybody, and we'll see you all there, May 4th.
Couple of quick questions for the fighters. Daniel, we'll start with you. A lot of fighters have said they're going to beat Canelo Alvarez, but in 53 fights, only one man has managed to do it. How specifically can you beat Canelo Alvarez on May the 4th?
Well, you say that if you understand that boxing styles make fights, it's no way that you can automatically think because he defeated Golovkin that he'll defeat me. I'm a totally different animal. I possess a totally different threat. Physically, I'm the bigger man. Golovkin was bigger than him, and I'm bigger than Golovkin. So that's more of a threat to Canelo that he's ever seen. And Rocky Fielding was the biggest fighter that he ever faced, but Rocky Fielding didn't possess the skill set that I have. So that's the difference.
Canelo, my broadcast partner on DAZN, Sergio Mora, said when he fought Daniel Jacobs, he was in awe of just how big he was on fight night when he stepped into the ropes. How do you plan to beat a man that's going to be much bigger than you?
No, es obviamente, va a ser una pelea difícil, eso lo tenemos bien claro. Va a ser una pelea muy difícil. Su estilo es un estilo complicado. Pero creo que en estos niveles y la experiencia que tengo puedo adaptarme a lo que sea. Me voy a preparar para ganar esta pelea y sabemos que tenemos un rival difícil, pero puedo adaptarme a cualquier cosa. Así que estoy listo para cualquier estilo que venga a poner en la mesa Daniel Jacobs y estamos listos para ganar el 4 de mayo.
No, we know his style is going to be very difficult, very complicated. But at this level, that's what you have to face. Those styles, all the different styles, and this level of fighters. We're prepared, we're going to train, we're going to work for whatever he can bring so that on May 4th, once again, my hand is raised.
Daniel, you mentioned you fought Triple G. In your opinion, what's the tougher fight, Gennady Golovkin or the man to your right?
Well, we have yet to see, but I'm going to make sure that I train to face the best Canelo that we have yet to see. So that's the respect that I give, making sure that I prep 100% accordingly so that there's no stone unturned and that I can put my best foot forward.
And Canelo, in your last fight, you went up to 168 pounds. Now you're fighting Daniel Jacobs. A lot of people thought that fight might go the distance, but you blitzed him right out of there. Do you think that you can knock out Daniel Jacobs?
Bueno, en el boxeo todo puede suceder, obviamente. Knockout siempre está a la puerta, pero nosotros siempre nos preparamos para los 12 asaltos, ¿no? Y obviamente salimos a buscar el knockout, pero si no, estaremos listos para cualquier cosa, ¿no? Creo que cualquier cosa que se tenga que hacer en el cuadrilátero estaremos listos.
No, you know, in boxing, obviously anything can happen. We go in there looking for the knockout, but prepared for the 12 rounds and expecting the unexpected. We're ready for it.
The reason you got a bad reception from the fans is you're wearing wingtips in New York. You're not supposed to do that. Wingtip shoes.
Oh, right, okay, sorry about that.
Anyway, but seriously, Canelo fought Golovkin twice, very close fights, it went to decision. Danny Jacobs fought Golovkin once, went to a decision, very close. You could argue either way.
Agree with that.
It seems likely or reasonable that there's a good chance this fight will go the distance and go to the decision, knowing the caliber of the fighters. But do you think on Cinco de Mayo weekend in Las Vegas that if it's a close fight, and most people think Danny Jacobs won, your fighter, that he can win a close decision in Vegas?
I think we're up against it, and I think we know that. I think it's our quest and priority to make sure that we make people aware of that, and we put the pressure on the commission to accept a suitable panel. I also think sometimes it can work against you, i.e. Canelo, in that everybody's talking about it. Everyone's talking about the Triple G fights, that he got those decisions, and maybe this one is a close one and he doesn't get the decisions. But we realise we're effectively going into enemy territory, and that's part of Danny Jacobs' game plan to make sure that he wins the fight convincingly. And you know what, Eddie? Sometimes you can win the fight and the world knows you won the fight, but you don't get the decision. But the world will know. So we will see.
Now, in the heavyweights, a quick question. We know the political situation. AJ is with DAZN in the U.S., Sky Sports, usually box office in the U.K. Tyson Fury just signed his deal, not only with BT Sport box office in the U.K., but with ESPN, and Aaron wants to put them on their app, which is ESPN Plus, which is a competitor to DAZN, and ESPN pay-per-view, and DAZN says, forget about it, pay-per-views are past history. And with Deontay Wilder, who knows, but it looks like he's still tied to some degree to Showtime and to Fox through the PBC. How can, from your perspective with Anthony Joshua, how would you be able to make a fight with him being tied to DAZN, specifically in the U.S., in the U.K. with Sky Sports, if the other fighter was on
I'll stop you there,
BT?
Eddie, because you've confused me. So that shows you how confusing it is. The simple answer is the fight with Wilder and Joshua, I believe, is now very easy to make because Wilder doesn't have an agreement with any broadcaster. I think the Fury fight with ESPN, one thing's for sure, he will box on ESPN. That is the contract. Could we box on another platform? Yes, we could. Do we want to box on DAZN? Absolutely, with Joshua. So anything's possible, but it's also very, very difficult. But I think right now the easiest fight to make is Joshua against Wilder.
If you put Joshua on a pay-per-view in America, we're not talking about the UK, in America, what would the DAZN subscribers think who have been promised?
Because Joshua is on a fight-by-fight deal with DAZN. Now, they also have a first-last matching option on him, which effectively has him locked under their control. They are not a restrictive company who would say, no, Joshua, you cannot fight Deontay Wilder. We are stopping you from doing that. But at the same time, they want Joshua on DAZN. Deontay Wilder doesn't have a broadcaster, doesn't have a network. So I believe that's a fight that could be easy to make. Would Joshua fight Tyson Fury on ESPN pay-per-view? Not ideally. Could he? Yes. Let's see the money, ultimately, because I believe DAZN will pay more than both of those two. But it's very, very difficult, and we've seen disappointment for the fans because Tyson Fury has ducked the Wilder fight.
Now, could you share it like it was done with Mayweather and Pacquiao and years ago with Lewis?
Because how can you do that when the DAZN is $9.99 a month for subscribers and Showtime want $100 for your money? So which platform do you think people are going to buy on? You know, Showtime will look at it and say, well, we can't do that. It's $100 on Showtime. It's $9.99 on DAZN.
What
So
about regular Showtime or free over the air on Fox?
can't create the money. Can't create the money.
So is it likely any of these are going to happen?
Yes,
given
Wilder
the
Joshua. Wilder Joshua can be made today.
But it's not. Have
They
they said?
They have to talk. You know, it's 8, 9, 10 emails. It's phone calls. It's public pleading to talk to them. If they don't want to talk, they don't want to make the fight. If they don't want to talk, they can't want to make the fight. And if they won't make the fight, what can we do? So we're the only heavyweight in that top 3 right now who has a date confirmed, who has tickets on sale, who has a deal in place to be done. So we have to worry about our own business. And right now, June the 1st, Madison Square Garden, Anthony Joshua against Big Baby Miller.
And are you going to see your good friend Shelly Finkel now that you're here in New York?
I've asked for a meeting. I asked for a meeting last week. He said he was out of the country. I asked for a meeting this week, and he hasn't even come back to me. I asked for a meeting this week with myself and John Skipper. They have an obligation to look at opportunities for Deontay Wilder, and they are not doing it.
Well, we hope these get made, but I don't know.
We'll see. It's boxing,
Let's see
Eddie.
again.
We're here in New York City at the Hard Rock Cafe. We're here for the press conference. We have Canelo Alvarez going up against Daniel Jacobs. This is for the unified middleweight championship title of the world. With us is Eddie Goldman from No Holds Barred. Eddie, what's your take on this fight, which I think will be an extremely wonderful fight?
It could very well be. The first thing is that as you hear mainly Canelo's fans in the background upstairs cheering and with their horns. First thing, it's kind of rare in boxing that you get 2 of the best in the division facing each other. Arguably, the top 3 middleweights are Saul Canelo Alvarez, Danny Jacobs, and Gennady Golovkin. And you could put them in any order you want, although most people would put Canelo as number 1. And Danny has one of the belts, Canelo has a bunch of these other belts, and this is going to be to unify them. So it's a very important fight, and it could be a very good fight because they're both seasoned, excellent fighters. Canelo has a lot of power. He's been working better on his footwork and defense since he was younger. And Danny Jacobs is a guy who will have the reach, he's taller, longer, may want to stay on the outside, also has power, but he's also getting a little older. Some of his recent fights against guys who were good but not at the super duper elite level, he showed maybe he's slowing down. But on the other hand, sometimes fighters fight up or down to the level of competition. So when you go up against somebody that's not really elite or not the A+ level, you may not show everything that you have. So he beat a very tough Derevyanchenko. He beat Zelensky, who people didn't give much of a chance. We're going to see how he is. And Canelo has just been getting better and better. His last 2 fights, he's fought the best of the division, Gennady Golovkin. The first fight was scored a draw. Most people watching it thought that Golovkin deserved to win. The second fight, Canelo was given a very close victory. Again, a very close fight. Canelo did better. I didn't have a problem with that. A lot of people thought it should have been a draw, the second fight, or that Golovkin won. I didn't have a problem with Canelo winning. It could have gone either way. But the difference was in the second fight, Canelo was landing the harder shots. Golovkin landed more punches. So how do you weigh those together? It's not amateur boxing where you count the punches landed. And Canelo did more damage. But again, it was a razor-thin decision. And he is getting better with age. We're going to see how he does against Danny Jacobs. But it's an excellent matchup in a sport where people rightly are criticizing a lot of the fights that are made, mismatches and so forth. This is about as good as it gets, and you could say, well, you'd want to see Golovkin in there. Golovkin got a razor-thin victory over Danny Jacobs a couple of years ago. A lot of people thought that Danny Jacobs should have won that fight.
I was one of them, or at least a draw, so hey,
Yeah, it would have been tough with the knockdown to score it a draw. So you've had these three fighters fighting each other, all with razor-thin and somewhat controversial decisions. And so now the other two, Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs, will face each other. And who knows what lies in the future for all of them, what's going to happen if there'll be a third Canelo fight with Golovkin or a second fight with Jacobs.
I'm also curious, though, if we find out from Canelo, when we last left him, he was fighting at 168, Rocky Fielding. And after he had won that 1-2-3 fight, he said that they weren't sure what way they would go, 168 or 160. So I'm wondering what was his...
back at 160. You got to remember the Fielding fight. He wanted to get a belt in another division. He got probably the least important belt in the 168 division. He fought a guy who was not an elite fighter, and it was only like 3 months after he fought Golovkin. So instead of having to come back down, because he does put on a lot of weight between fights, instead of having to come down to 60, he went down to 68, and he dispatched them very rapidly. And he looked very good in that fight. So we'll see what Canelo does. What is he, about 28 or so years old? And a lot of middleweight fighters, as they get older, as happens to all of us, you put in a little weight. And we've seen, Roy Jones moved up in weight, all the great middleweights. Bernard Hopkins moved up in weight. Other welterweights have moved up to middleweight. The great Sugar Ray Robinson did that. So people will move up in weight. So how long will Canelo stay at middleweight? That remains to be seen. But on May the 4th, with all these fans cheering for him with their air horns and everything, this fight will be at middleweight, 160-pound weight limit.
So thank you, Eddie Goldman from No Holds Barred. Love ya.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Kristal Hart reporting from New York City. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.